Oh, hello there. I'm Jack O'Hara, and this is episode 359 of The O Show with Mile High Sports writer, podcast, friend of mine from the MLB Winter Meetings, Mr. Cade Walker. Thanks for coming in studio, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jack.
Year and a half, maybe, since the last time we saw each other. To give people kind of a brief story, we met at the Major League Baseball Winter Meetings in San Diego 2 winters ago. It was in December. We were able to interact with some of the guys that we grew up idolizing almost, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How was that for you, going into it? Because for me, I immediately walked because we signed up for the minor league portion of it. We were both affiliated with this network called Belly Up Sports. We have both since moved on from. But when I first walked into that hotel and I immediately saw Bryce Harper and his dad, Reggie Jackson, Joe Girardi, all of these big-time media personnel and former Hall of Fame baseball players, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom and pump myself up a little bit. I was, throwing water in my face. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to have to, again, build up the courage to talk to these guys. Because when I walked in there and saw them for the first time in person, I'm like, this is what it's all about. It's make or break. What was it like for you when we first went in there?
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was just getting thrown directly into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah.
You see, Kenny Rosenthal just darting around the whole place, every now and then. You see... Dan O'Dowd, I talked to him. Just guys like that I'm like, man, because I'm from Colorado, so I grew up a Rockies fan. So I see Dan O'Dowd. He was the general manager while I was, growing up watching the Rockies. I'm like, man, that guy built the team that I, grew up watching. And then other guys like Jack Flaherty was there for a minute,
Yep.
and I remember we were watching. I think Dan O'Dowd and Tom Verducci talk on MLB Network, and then about 3 feet behind us, just Scott Boras walks by, and I'm like, well, that's Scott Boras.
That was the one picture I took that entire week. I'm like, I'm not going to be a fanboy. I'm going to talk to these guys as professionals. But Scott Boras was the one. I'm like, he just signed Garrett Cole to the Yankees, which is my favorite team. We got to be there for that when the news broke. Right. And I was like, Mr. Boras, can I take a picture? I'm like, thanks for signing Garrett Cole. Thought we were going to win a World Series, but I guess the Tampa Bay Rays are just that better.
Yeah. That was a good year for the Rays. They're a good team. They that whole analytics thing. I talked about that on my podcast with the decision to pull Blake Snell. But that's sort of my area of talking about baseball, and especially it's especially relevant when it comes to the Rockies is looking at how much teams use analytics now and how little they do in the case of the Rockies, and kind of evaluating there. And a guy like Scott Boras. He's been good for baseball because he has all these big name guys like Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole is particularly interesting because he was with the Pirates and he was kind of middling, moves to the Astros, goes through a whole revolution in terms of rebuilding his pitcher's profile in terms of his spin rate and all that, and he's obviously one of the most dominant pitchers in the league. So that's sort of my take on things is, analytics, looking at data, and it was really cool talking about Dan O'Dowd, or talking with Dan O'Dowd at the winter meeting specifically because he was on the forefront of things in terms of data and analytics, and I think that was part of the reason why the Rockies were so successful during his tenure and why they've since fallen off a cliff.
How long have you been with Mile High Sports?
I started working with Mile High Sports last July. So coming up on a year here in a little bit. So I've been hosting 20th and Blake, which is the Rockies podcast for them. Yeah. I've been doing some writing for them for the Denver Nuggets. So I definitely focus on basketball as well, NBA stuff. But I do host a twice a week podcast, 20th and Blake for them.
How's that going for you?
It's great, man. I have a lot of freedom to talk about what I want. So it's been really cool having that creative freedom and being able to be close with that team, just to follow them through what they're going through with. And this offseason was particularly eventful because of the blockbuster trade of Nolan Arenado. So I kind of anticipated that last season, with that shortened season, and I'm like, man, the Rockies aren't good. They're not going anywhere. So there was before last season, they talked to Dick Monfort, the owner,
right,
and he was saying, well, yeah, next year we're going to win 91 games. I interpolated the data, and interpolated was a funny word that people were like, do you even know what that means? So he said, yeah, we're going to win 91 games this year. And that was before the pandemic obviously shut everything down. But they ended up having a terrible season, and were essentially forced to trade away Nolan Arenado because they promised that they were going to build a better team around him.
I totally forgot about that. I wasn't even going to ask you that until you just brought it up. My condolences.
Yeah.
It's got to be awful.
It was awful as a fan, but as also, someone who, appreciates Nolan Arenado and what he brings to the game. It's like, good for him. Now he gets to go play with a team that is willing to put a team around him to contend. So he gets to play with somebody like Paul Goldschmidt, and not to knock necessarily the Rockies roster, but man, like the team building was just really bad over there. And now on his way out is probably Trevor Story this offseason, either this offseason or near the trade deadline. So,
well, that stinks for you guys.
Yeah.
So you could be us, almost a guarantee to win the World Series every year, and then you just blow it in the division series. That's where we're at. The Yankees are now the Dallas Cowboys, essentially. The MLB's Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. This is our year, and then it's not. See, I definitely follow the Yankees closely because they're like Rockies varsity, right? You
Exactly.
Had, Mike Tauchman
We
for a
just
little bit.
gave away Mike Tauchman for whatever reason. For Willie Peralta, of all people?
Yeah, see, I looked at the numbers behind that. Willie Peralta, like, he's fine. Like, he had good numbers,
He's not the sock
underlying
man.
data, but I don't understand. No, I feel like Tauchman was a little bit too steep. Like, Tauchman was great. Plus defender, plus hitter at the plate. I don't understand that. But, you guys pulled other Rockies like DJ LeMahieu as well, and that was the more notable one. People are saying Trevor Story might go there next. So, I definitely follow the Yankees from a distance. But, Ottavino was there, had that stint there as well.
He was awful.
Yeah.
I was not shocked at all. I mean, I was a little shocked that they traded him to Boston, but I wasn't upset about it. I'm like, all right, he's just their problem now. Have fun with Adam Ottavino. All the potential, but that slider just hangs. I talked to Kyle Bodie about it when we went out to drinks that night afterwards. After one of the nights we saw Kyle Bodie, and he was hosting that party that we were invited to. And I was like, what the hell is going on with Adam Ottavino's slider? Because he gave up all the big hits in that series to Houston in the 2019 ALCS. And he was just like, I don't know, dude. Like he was pretty out of it at that point, at that time of the night. But
yeah, it was near the end.
Remember those Lime scooters that we rode there?
Yes, yeah. We rode the Lime scooters there, and then I think Jeremy met up with us.
Jeremy
there.
Bush, shout out to Jeremy Bush.
Yeah, and then then we walked back, and that was fun because we had to,
right. You were there.
Yeah,
I tell this to a lot of people. So we were standing on a corner in downtown San Diego, and in my head, I'm like, San Diego's the most perfect place in the entire universe. But there was this one part that was just not too a little suspect, right? It was 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We decided to walk back to either the hotel where they're holding the meetings or our own hotels, right? And we were a good 25, 30 blocks away from where we were supposed to be. And there was just this one guy, and I'm sure a lot of people have had this experience with people just on the side of the street that are just not all mentally there. I don't want to like pounce on the guy, but he came up to the three of us, or he didn't come up to us, but he had a skateboard and he was waiting at the intersection with us. And for whatever reason, right, he targeted me, right? Like something triggered inside of his brain to say like, I don't like this dude. Walked up to me, spit on my jacket, put out his cigarette on my jacket, and then just turned and was waiting for the interstop, right? So we're just like, okay, that was weird. Skates away, and we're continuing to walk in the same direction he's walking, and he notices, and he turns around, and he just starts screaming at the top of his head, like, you motherfucker, like, you, and we're all looking at each other, we're like, what did we do? Like, did we say something, like, behind this guy's back? Like, what set him off? And I think we all realized right out of the get-go, like, there's something off about this guy. Like, it's not us, it's him. And about 3 or 4 times he kept coming back. I'm like, this guy's going to kick my ass. Like, this is the night it ends. Like, okay, it's pretty dark. This is, the height of my professional career, meeting some of my idols. Like you talked about Dan O'Dowd, Jack Curry with the DS Network and the Yankees was with me. Great guy. You met him as well. And that was it, And we actually went into a restaurant And they're like, how many? And we're like, oh no, we're just gonna wait here because there's some crazy guy trying to murder my friend. And they're like, yeah, we get that a lot. Give it 10, 15 minutes. We understand. And that was it. But I was genuinely very scared that night.
Oh, definitely, me too. I was like, man, what does this guy want? Like, what is he doing? I mean, I guess we were, walking from, we were in, I think, Chinatown, walking back to Gaslamp District, and I mean, we were all like dressed up and everything, and so I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a scary experience because we just kind of had to book it at that point. We were like, we should just get out of here. So yeah, definitely a scary experience, but it was definitely like. It was like thrilling in a bad way on that sense, but it was equally as thrilling being there. So it was just kind of a roller coaster of emotions that whole week.
That whole week was awesome. Like the stress level, obviously, like going there every day.
Absolutely.
We're like, all right, we got to network with people. Like it's make or break. If we don't make a good impression, like we can't come back.
Yeah.
Like with Dan O'Dowd, he was awesome. He gave you a few minutes of his time. You recorded on your phone. Like back then, we would record podcasts with our phone and the voice memo apps. I did the same with Jack Curry. You asked him about Neil Walker at the time, who wasn't inducted in the Hall of Fame. It was his final year on the ballot, and now he's in.
Yeah,
Him and Derek Jeter.
Yeah, Larry Walker. He barely made it that year. That was definitely a fun experience because he's the first Rocky inducted in the Hall of Fame. Shout out to my buddy Manny Rendawa at MLB.com. He does some StatCast work. So Manny made a big push for Larry Walker Hall of Fame. Like he was on Twitter tweeting out something every day like, this is why Larry Walker should be in the Hall of Fame. And he got in by 3 votes. So it's definitely very likely that without Manny's push, without his influence around the media circles, that Larry Walker might not be in the Hall of Fame. So it was his last year on the ballot, and Jack Curry did end up voting for Larry Walker, and that was really cool. And I asked him, I think that same day, just a quick question after you interviewed him for a minute, I asked him about Todd Helton for the Hall of Fame, who's still on the ballot, hasn't gotten in yet. But I asked Jack Curry, I'm like, so Larry Walker, right? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And then I'm like, well, what about Todd Helton? He's like, well, I'm not really convinced on that one yet. But as soon as his ballot came public that year, Todd Helton was on his ballot, and I was very very surprised and also very happy to see that. So
I mean, we'll see what happens with him. Jorge Posada had 1 year on the ballot. 1 year, he didn't get the certain percentage that he needed to stay on.
Didn't hit the threshold, yeah.
That sucks because he was the Yankees' franchise catcher for almost 20 years. Part of the core 4 with him, Pettit, Jeter, and Rivera.
Right.
There's no respect there. I
Yeah.
personally was not a huge fan of Jorge Posada. I watched him as a kid towards the tail end of his career. Bases loaded, 1 out, runners on first and second, 1 out, automatic double play almost every single time he came to the plate. I'm like, this guy is an automatic out. He is a cancer to this lineup. We need to get rid of him. And it got to the point where he didn't want to retire, but the Yankees are like, we're not bringing you back. He's like, well, I'm going to go to another team. They're like, no, you're not. He's like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'll just retire. And that's what happened with Jorge Posada.
Yeah. I think Pettit's still on the ballot too, right? And he hasn't.
He's got to be up there, one of his final. Him and Roger. Because Roger and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are the two that, it's half and half. Some people are like, they're steroid guys. They can't go in. Others are like 2 of the greatest players of all time. Barry Bonds is the home run king still. I personally think he should get in. I personally think he will get in his final year. But I guess time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, you have those 2 guys that, Clemens and Bonds would undoubtedly be Hall of Famers if they didn't take steroids, right? Because they're both just hovering about 65% every single year. No huge gains, no huge losses. So they're just sitting there at their percentage on the ballot every year. Man, if I personally had a ballot, I mean, I'd put them in. They deserve it. Baseball, their all-time hits leader, all-time home runs leader, neither of them are in the Hall of Fame. And that's, I feel like that's sort of an indictment on how narrow the Hall of Fame is, how strict the standards are for like the writers to put in, Hall of Famers. And man, people have that ideology of small hall, and that's why Larry Walker almost didn't get in. He, got in by 3 votes on his last year on the ballot. And you look at the guy's career, and I mean, he won an MVP. He was dominant for one of the best 7-year stretches of anyone in the 90s, 2000s, in an era where people were taking steroids, and Larry Walker never took steroids. He just played at Coors Field. So, yeah, I think my personal ideology when it comes to the Hall of Fame is open it up a little bit more. You talked about Jorge Posada not even staying on the ballot for more than a season, and I feel like a guy like that, probably not a Hall of Fame player, but I mean he at least deserves some more consideration.
So you obviously from Colorado, kind of change subjects here. You met in San Diego. What the hell are you doing here?
Right. Okay. So I initially went to Metropolitan State University of Denver. That's where I was attending when we met, and I transferred to go play baseball at the Masters University in Los Angeles. That doesn't explain what I'm doing here, though. So
Get to the damn point, Cade.
So my brother, he moved out here to play high school at Corona del Sol. He's a very good player, probably a legitimate prospect. He's going to go Division I somewhere. So he moved out here to play, and it was kind of just a cool thing, like for my family. So I get to play summer baseball out here because the summer baseball out here is fantastic. Arizona baseball is amazing. So I'm going to be out here. I'm going to play in the Arizona Collegiate Wood Bat League.
It's going to be very competitive for sure.
Absolutely.
I feel like Arizona and California especially, like this is where the talent is for the most part.
For sure.
There's a lot of talent that doesn't even get a chance out here. Like that's how deep the rosters are.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's like the hotbeds for baseball talent in the United States is like California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, a little bit of Georgia. But those are really the hotbeds. And if you look at summer leagues, like the most competitive summer league, absolutely 100% Cape Cod. That's the best summer league up in like Massachusetts area.
100%.
And then you have the Coastal Plains League.
Northwoods.
Northwoods. Those are like just below Cape Cod. Those are great leagues as well. And then I know there's a league up in Alaska that's also very competitive.
The Alaska League too. Just sun 24 hours a day.
Yep.
I almost interned there as a play-by-play voice, and I'm thinking, like, is my sleep schedule just going to be off all summer long? Like, how are we going to work and then get up? Like, I'm probably going to wake up every 2 hours thinking I got to be somewhere because it's always sunny.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a couple guys from my team playing up in Alaska this summer as well. So, but I had an opportunity. I had a coach out here. He coaches at Arizona Christian University out here, so he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, let's get you on the team this summer." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Well, I'll be close to my family, be able to work out and make gains over the summer, and then play in a fairly competitive league." So that just ended up working out fairly well.
How's the atmosphere been at Masters through 2 years now? You've been there?
This was my first full season there, so
because COVID hit.
Right. Yeah. Lost my freshman year, but I did keep the eligibility, so I do have another year if I want it.
You'll be a super senior.
Right. Yeah. That would be nice.
One of those kids.
Yeah. You know what's funny is we had a guy on our team this year, 25. He was 25
No
years
way.
old playing college baseball. Yeah.
That shouldn't be allowed.
No, I mean he redshirted, went and played JUCO somewhere, got a year back because of COVID, so he ended up being 25 this last season. So he's going to go play, I believe, in the Mexican Professional League, but potentially this summer. He's going and trying out. He's fantastic. Like, my school, it's NAIA, right? So you compare NAIA to like other divisions, and maybe the talent level isn't the greatest, but like perception wise, it's actually pretty good. From our school, we have this kid. His name is Aaron Shackelford. He's in the Pirates organization now. I think he's in high A. That same year, we had a kid, Rob Winslow. Actually, he helped coach a little bit this spring for us, but he's in Modesto right now for the Mariners organization. So I mean, we get pro guys out of our school for sure, out of our organization. I went to the Angels game last week. Ironically, Albert Pujols' last game as an Angel.
That stunned me.
Yeah, that was definitely shocking. But the kid, Jose Rojas for the Angels, he went to Vanguard University, and they're in our conference. So you do get very, very high level competition in NAIA, specifically in our conference, the GSAC. So you get good quality players. So yeah, this was my first year there. I ended up with a 2.3 ERA, so pretty low.
I'm Cade. Look at me.
I was in the bullpen. Didn't throw as many innings as I thought I could have, but it was a good season. It was productive, and I think it'll be good.
It's still your start, right? Like there's probably some veterans on that roster that will get more playing time starting out. You kind of have to make a name for yourself.
Right. Yeah. So this was a weird year. We had like 43 kids on our roster, which we've never carried or at least the coach told us they never carried more than like 30, 32. But they had a bunch of seniors come back, and they had a big freshman class, so it was just a perfect storm. We had a lot of guys, so a lot of seniors on the team. So I think we lost 5 of our position players this year because they were seniors or super seniors, and like half of our pitching staff. So
Is your goal to be a pro baseball player, or are you just playing to prolong your career because you love it?
no, man, I love baseball. I don't think I want to play past college. I mean, if the opportunity arises, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Like if you had an opportunity to get signed and get that $500K right out of the get-go, you would.
Yeah, probably, honestly. If that was on the table, I would consider it for sure. But right now, my goal is to jump into either a front office for a baseball team or go into scouting. So I'm going to try doing some scouting work out here in the summer for Arizona for PBR. So I've talked to them a little bit. So that's where I'm at.
So you want to be out here long term then?
I mean, maybe not, but we'll see. Like, I love Arizona. I would love to be out here long term, but it's just wherever it takes me. But for this summer, since I'm going to be out here, I already talked to some guys out here, so I can do some internships, some scouting out here while I'm here.
The scouting, the analytics. You could be the next Trevor Bauer. You don't even know it.
Hey, I mean, I love Trevor Bauer. I love what he brings to Major League Baseball. I think that's exactly the type of direction that baseball needs to go. In terms of, we're getting as much information as possible. We're developing these players with an intended goal in mind, with all this information. And, Bauer is a great representative for that. I mean, I love watching his YouTube channel. I mean, he talks about, how to fix or how to increase your spin rate, how to, throw different pitches. So, he's kind of a hybrid of, we're developing guys in the physical aspect and the coaching aspect, and also looking at the data and applying that.
So you're going to go to Colorado for the All-Star game, because for those that don't know, the Major League Baseball All-Star weekend or week, home run derby and everything, got moved to Denver as opposed to Atlanta, because it got political over there, which I still don't really understand the whole meaning of that. But home run derby at Coors Field, sign me up for that. You know? That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get out there yet. I'm going to talk to Mile High Sports, see if I can get a credential out there for sure. That's definitely a goal. So with the home run derby, I think it was 98 when Coors hosted the All-Star game last time. Ken Griffey Jr. won. So since then, Colorado, Coors Field, they've expanded their fences a little bit, put up, they call it the Bridich Barrier after the former GM of the Rockies, who just resigned a couple weeks ago, thank God.
Have they trimmed the elevation yet?
No, but what they do is they store their baseballs in a humidor. So it's
That's
sort
stupid.
of attempts to minimize the elevation effects. And there's I have some issues with the humidor because the ball does fly less when it's hit, but when it's pitched, there's a reason why Rockies pitchers typically aren't the greatest, at least their numbers. Like, you have some outliers, like Kyle Freeland had an amazing year a couple seasons ago. German Marquez had a great season a couple years ago. But generally, it's tough to pitch at Coors Field because your ball doesn't move as much. See, I was from Colorado. I developed a knuckleball out in Colorado, and it was fairly effective at elevation. But man, moving to sea level, you can definitely tell the difference with how much it moves. Rockies pitchers have to make that constant adjustment from throwing at elevation where nothing moves very much, and then throwing on the road where things do move. So, and that's why hitters are discredited at Coors Field, because they hit half of their games at Coors Field, but then they go on the road and they face completely different pitching styles. You see, I think I talked to Eno Saris ironically at the baseball winter meetings, and he's like, yeah, I mean, Rockies players face about 80% fastballs at home and then about 50% fastballs on the road. So they have to constantly make that adjustment. And he estimated it took off about 9 to 10 wins off of their schedule every year in a full 162 game season. So, but talking about the home run derby, the All-Star game, I hope they turn off the humidor for the home run derby so we can see guys like Vladimir Guerrero, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton just put balls.
They're going to break the monitors, like the LED boards out in deep left field. They're going to clear those bleachers.
Yeah, I hope so. That's my hope, and it's going to be an eventful All-Star game if they do. because you've seen monstrous performances from these guys in years past, and I hope a couple of these guys comes back. Specifically Guerrero, I want to see Guerrero.
That'll be fun. When we go to Nashville in December, what's our game plan?
Man, I mean, we'll already have our feet wet. We went a couple years ago in San Diego, so
Chuck the nerves out.
Yeah,
Dusted off the cobwebs.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think we should?
Apparently, the crime rate is rising there, so we may see a few more triggered people on the side of the street. It'll be fun. But
Yeah.
we'll know who to talk to. Again, we got our cuts down.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'll see if I can make a push for Todd Helton Hall of Fame this time around.
Jack,
Instead of
Jack,
Larry
what do you
Walker.
think?
Jack, yeah, come on. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that'll be good. I mean, I wanted to go last year when it was supposed to be in Dallas, but that
yep.
got shut down.
That'd have been easy.
I was supposed to go to the Hall of Fame induction for Derek Jeter and Larry Walker in Cooperstown before that got shut down.
That's going to be this July, right? They're gonna do it?
I think so, but I think that one's supposed to be virtual. I'm not sure if that one's like the full thing that they usually do up in Cooperstown, that full celebration. I'm not sure. That's what I saw, but we'll take a look. But I was supposed to go that year, and that would have been an experience for sure.
Should be fun. Can I count you in for being in Nashville in December?
Yeah, let's do it.
Did you enjoy your time on the show?
Definitely.
Good, because you're not coming back. Cade Walker, thanks for joining the O Show. This is episode 359 of the O Show.